Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another photo mishmash. This one being broadcast live August 15th, 2018. And as usual, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host Steve Scurich. Hi, Steve.
As usual, but a little bit more exciting. Like last week, we're in the same room together.
That's right.
Now, post-trip, you guys that watched last week, it was pre-trip. We were getting ready to take off the following morning, and we just got home from an awesome tour of Olympic and Mount Rainier.
It was a good tour.
It was.
Yep. I know I said this on Facebook earlier. I always love it when a tour goes nice and smooth and, no clients die.
That's where the bar is set.
No. But, I love all of the locations we go to. Every place is neat and kind of cool in its own way. But living here in Washington now for coming up on just about 2 years, and it being a place that I visited lots over the years prior to moving here, it feels a little extra special to share some of these really cool locations with people.
Yeah. This tour was great. Last year was the first time I'd ever spent any time in the Olympic National Park. And then we did not do Mount Rainier last year. And to be perfectly honest, this year, that was the highlight for me. We had really smoky weather, unfortunately, so we didn't get to do a lot of star photography like we were hoping. But the Mount Rainier, we just kind of scratched the surface of it. And I think for next year's tour, we're going to add an extra day on that end and possibly give up the Port Angeles side of things, which I think is a great idea. But everybody had an awesome time, and no clients died, so apparently that's good.
Yep. Not because of my efforts or anything, but there was a bit of hiking, that wore some folks out. But yeah, Mount Rainier, I love it. Smoky weather, it's still going on. Fires in British Columbia, fires in Northern California, fires just on the east side of the Cascades. It's serious fire season, and so that's really impacting the weather. It's supposed to start clearing out in the next couple of days. I hope so.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, even though the tour wore out some clients, I got pretty worn out. In fact, you and I were just making a pot of coffee before we went live today, because I'm like, man, we got the show tonight. And so I had a cup of coffee. I'm wide awake for you folks. But more importantly, what are we doing tonight?
A mishmash?
Yeah, but this is check this out. Huh?
Special mishmash.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers. Yeah.
To all you fine folks.
What are you drinking?
I've got a Manhattan. So Chris, Toby's girlfriend, I sent her a picture a long time ago. I was coming into town. She wanted to know exactly which ingredients I have at home for making my Manhattans. And I sent her a picture of all the ingredients, and she kept that. That was probably like a year and a half ago. And we came home from the tour or came back to Toby's from the tour. And Chris had every ingredient that I use at home for my Manhattans here. And so I made Chris and I a Manhattan. And what are you drinking there?
I'm drinking a gin and tonic. Just my drink of choice when I end up at a bar, which honestly isn't that often, and I'm not sure what to order. If there isn't a drink that looks like it comes with fruit and an umbrella, then I'll go with a gin and tonic.
When you were making that, I'm like, are you sure? Where's your pink champagne in a big champagne flute? But so here we are tonight. And this is a lead up to, you want to talk about what we're doing later on?
Yeah. So we're going to do a regular mishmash. And then after, and I'm sorry that I don't have a good way to do this live, so we're just not going to do it live right now, but be on the lookout. We're going to make our way through these drinks as we make our way through this mishmash, and then maybe have another drink or two and critique some images that have been submitted to us outside of Penn. You probably have seen the call out. I posted it several different places asking publicly for image critiques. Usually that's something that's reserved for you fine people, you Pensters, you Photo Enthusiast Network members. There might be some of you watching this that haven't signed up yet, because I did post this to Facebook a few moments ago as well. And if you're not, you're missing out on very serious, awesome image critiques, as well as a whole ton of other additional material that's going to make you a better photographer. And we've talked about this a lot. We'll touch on what a write-up that you just did yesterday that went out. Yeah, yesterday was Tuesday. And just the content you get when you are a Penn member is just fantastic. So we'll touch on that during the course of the show. But oh, Melanie found pretty appropriate emojis here. We haven't said welcome to the chat room yet.
Yeah.
This show is live if you are watching it live. And we love you folks hanging out in the chat room and chatting with us. And you make the show a lot better than just Steve and I sitting here. So glad he's sitting next to me. It's a much better show when this is.
Yeah, this is fun. I wish there was. I just wish we lived closer and we could do this more often. This is really cool.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to keep the cocktail cheers going from time to time. I'll be at Tennessee and Washington most likely, but this is kind of how I like to unwind after a trip anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest. This is how I like to unwind a couple days a week. But you know, get home from a trip and we're just exhausted. So
getting up at 3:30 a.m., you know, not 5, not 4, but 3:30 a.m. to get up in time to get those locations for those sunrises. Yeah, that'll wear you out.
Yeah, it's the oddball sleeping patterns. It's being in different beds, and it's just being on with clients the whole time you're there, which I'm all happy to do. But we get done, and I just feel like I just kind of crash and need a couple days to recharge the old batteries. But yeah, it's always fun to cheers a good trip.
I'm looking forward to unwinding a little bit too, to share a little bit of personal information. We put an offer on a house, and we're currently renting, and we had the house inspection today. They went mostly well. A few things, you know, that require tons and tons and tons of money to fix, but no, not really, but kind of. And you know, that was a little stressful following around the awesome inspector who just really was good about pointing out what needed to be fixed, what could be passed on for a while. And hopefully that'll move forward fairly quickly, it looks. And the very nice thing is there is space in there for me to do a Mish Mash without bunk beds behind me.
Cheers to that, man.
Cheers to that.
That's huge news.
So,
and so I have a question though about your new place.
Yep.
It's your current place, what, 2-bedroom, 1 bath?
Yep.
And your new place is about the same size. Square footage is a little bigger.
Yep.
Some of the rooms are a little smaller. My question is, wherever you end up recording Mish Mash, is it going to be a big enough space that Big Mouth Billy Bass is going to be able to fit?
I think we can make that happen. Yep. I call him Fred personally. His name is Fred.
By the way, you guys can't see this because he's always sideways, but look at his eyes. Look at how I mean, he's had a couple Manhattans before this show even started.
He aspires to be a flounder.
Gosh.
He looks at those guys laying around on the seafloor and he's like, man, that looks like life. Let me see if I can get my eyeball to migrate.
That poor fish. And I don't even know what was going on down here. So yeah, you and Chris are going to have your house.
Yep.
You gotta lock that down, dude.
The house or Chris?
Chris, you gotta lock her down, man. You guys are getting serious buying a house together, and you can't let that one get away. She's awesome.
I know. It's just like, you know, geese. Geese never get married, but they mate for life.
Oh, geez, geese. Are you a goose?
No, I'm a human. All right, moving on. Just a quick reminder that not that this show is brought to you by, but in general, I am sponsored from time to time by Squarespace, and actually, they've been a good sponsor. And if you're looking to build a website, go to Squarespace. Squarespace.com/PhotoRecTV, and you can save 10% off your first order. So just a reminder about that. Roy nicely said Manhattans this time. Well, you were drinking your Manhattan.
Yeah.
Tell us the ingredients of a Manhattan real quick for people.
Well, this particular one has Basil Hayden whiskey, which is outstanding. I like a good bourbon, a good rye. Even made them with Canadian whiskey or Irish whiskey. I'm not a Scotch guy at all, so I'm not going to make a Scotch Manhattan, but a good rye whiskey or bourbon and some sweet vermouth. Chris bought Carpano Antico, which is my favorite vermouth. In fact, it's just called vermouth because they invented vermouth years ago. I don't know, 115 years ago or something. A couple dashes of Angostura bitters, aromatic bitters, and a Luxardo maraschino cherry, which I don't know if you can see it on camera. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's that black cherry at the bottom there. That's the good stuff. There's some syrup around it. That is not your ordinary bright red, crappy maraschino cherry. These things are really, really good.
No red dye number 40 there?
No. this is the dessert at the end of the drink. So
that's good, because that shit gets you ADHD.
Yeah, more preservatives for us.
Yeah.
And I think as time goes on, you're going to see a myriad of drinks being served to this clown over here. Gin and tonic tonight, probably pink champagne and a flute, and something with an umbrella in it in the future. I'm sticking with my Manhattans. That's just kind of my thing. I'm a whiskey guy.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll get through all of that in the Mish Mash period, because...
No, this is... I'm guessing this might become quite popular. Either that or we just go down in flames.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll see. Poor McKay's, they're still stuck in Seattle, so drinks to them too. And Melanie, you're in Seattle too. All right. But you got to leave early to do a sunset shoot. That's smart. Good. Okay. Just a quick reminder, if you're watching this and you haven't entered the contest, photorec.tv/win. I mean, you can win. So we just got back from an awesome workshop with McKay Photography Academy, and you could win another awesome workshop, the Yellowstone Winter Trip, which is just a really cool experience. No pun intended.
It is. That's one of my favorite domestic trips that we do. And there's snowmobiling in it, just like right at the end. That is so much fun.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. So make sure you enter that, and you can, every person that you get to sign up through your special little share URL is an extra entry. You can earn some significant extra entries. Write your mom, write your dad, write your friends, let them know.
Yep.
Quick, you know, we ran into Max Sense at in the Olympic National Park. Let's mention that real quick. Photo enthusiast member Max Sense. He and his wonderful girlfriend are, I think, like today on their way to Hawaii. They are finishing up. He's finishing up work here in the United States. He's from France, just telling his life story to everybody. And they're on kind of a photographic adventure, and they're off on their way.
That's probably going to come back to us.
There, yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Max Sense and Marion, his
Sense,
girlfriend.
Miriam, Steve, me. On the beach, Ruby Beach
awesome.
in the Olympic National Park. You know, it wasn't a total random coincidence. He was, you know, headed that way. We kind of kept in touch and said, hey, well, this is where we're going to be. And he said, well, I'm going to end up there too. And we got to see each other. So that's always fun to run into people out there in the wild. So I just wanted to mention that. And since we've last talked, is that true? I thought it went out before, but I published my review of the Sony RX100 Mark VI VI. Very nice little camera. Susan bought one and had one on the trip. She used it occasionally.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, yeah. But you know that Susan's is a great example of so many of us. When we're out photographing, we want our big serious camera with us. And spending $1,300 on a little pocketable camera, when you could spend that $1,300 on a new lens or even upgrade your DSLR for some of you, or mirrorless, it's a little tough to swallow that. So, you know, it is the best, most zoomy point and shoot you got out there, but you got to pay a lot for it.
Yeah, the thing with Susan, though, is she's been on quite a few tours with us now. I don't know if it's quite a few, but she was on Glacier and she was on this one, and she's taken some classes from us and stuff. She likes to really get creative. I'm always inspired by Susan on our trips, because we get out of the car and everybody grabs their gear and kind of asks where we should go, where we should shoot, what type of lenses to use. And off goes Susan, you know, off on her own somewhere, and she's getting in tight and doing, you know, macro photography on some flowers or some rocks. And I always see her shooting just these really creative shots in these locations that a lot of us don't get. And I'm always excited to see the photographs that she gets. So for the type of work that she does on these trips, having that as a second body or something to use that's really lightweight and just get off and you know, shoot what she shoots, because I don't know if she's blowing stuff up that's just massive for the wall or anything like that. Yeah. She just captures a lot of photographs on the trips, and that's cool. I guess I just didn't realize that she was shooting that there. Yeah.
And then other bits of content that went out, you wrote a lovely Tuesday tip yesterday. Summarize it for us.
That thing out last minute. So here's the thing with my Tuesday tips, and those of you that have read them probably have caught on to this already. I don't want to just hit you with a Tuesday tip. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I want to try to tie a story into the tip so that because that's the way that I learn. I like analogies and I like stories that tie into something that I'm learning. And so I just figure that the whole world is that way. And I want to write my modules or my tips with some sort of analogy or story. And so I told Toby the other night, I said, okay, I've got my tip down. It's kind of a simple tip, but I'm trying to think of the story. And it took me a couple days for the creativity to kick in because I was in just brain overload being on tour. And finally I got on the radio and I said, I figured it out. What was it? But wait, there's more. That's the whole tone of the tip if you haven't read it already. And it basically is about Adobe Camera Raw being embedded in the Photoshop program. And if you do edits in Lightroom and you bring that photo into Photoshop to finish the picture, that's the way that I edit, and you find that you want to manipulate the sliders, you want to do a graduated filter or radial filter or something like that, you know, it's really a pain to go back into Lightroom and then reopen in Photoshop later. And for those who didn't know, you can just open that in Adobe Camera Raw within Photoshop, and it's the same process as Lightroom. Not only that, it gets you more comfortable working in Photoshop. So if you haven't read it, I encourage you to do so. Play around with Camera Raw in Photoshop, and I think you'll find that Photoshop can become a little less intimidating if you do that. So
yeah, nice. And that is, you get a weekly tip if you're a Photo Enthusiast member. And I'm really proud of that. You said you cranked it out last minute, but it's one of the, it's a meaty tip with lots of information, great screenshots showing you exactly what you need to do to activate it, to use it, to make use of it. Roy adds a little bit more of a, but wait, there's even more. You do have the other option when you go into Photoshop of saying you want to open that up as a smart object. Yep. And then you've got that non-destructive Camera Raw layer on top of the other one. So we'll be coming back with videos that kind of dive into those different options. We use this analogy a lot. You know, there are many different tools to kind of get the same job done. Got a nut you need to loosen, crescent wrench, socket wrench, some other wrench's name I don't know, plumber's wrench, a hammer if you really bang at it enough. I mean, and that's how that's what's true with Lightroom and Photoshop.
You're gonna get a good lesson in tools as soon as you close on your new house and start doing some projects around the home. A hammer's not going to loosen a nut too well.
That's about the only tool I'm good at. Bang it, bang it.
Oh,
and then I just get more frustrated.
Wow,
I know.
We're only half a drink in. Not even a quarter of a drink in.
I'm just proud of the content we have that shows you different options that you have with the short videos and the long videos. And plus, then there's the community that you can post in and say, I'm stuck. What tool is best for this job? And I'll give you a little emoji hammer. Then Steve will give you a good answer. So.
I'll clean it up.
Yeah. All right. And Dave reminds everybody tomorrow he's releasing Fort Sbim.
Oh boy.
Has Dave been drinking? Or that's just autocorrect? I don't even know what.
That's the Delta Sky Lounge.
His first in his series on exploring light and emotion, which is, so we've got these videos that are, here's how to do X, Y, and Z step by step. And then we've got Dave's videos and others similar to it that are more kind of the philosophical, artistic side of artistry and creating in photography. Yeah, I got that out pretty good.
Yeah, good.
So it just runs the gamut. Yeah, and we're gonna move on. Ready to move on?
Let's do it.
Okay. If you haven't seen the show in a while, I'll stop saying this at some point. We've moved what was the kind of critiquing period up to the early opening of the show, even though we've been talking for a little while, because we feel it's really important. And we've kind of morphed that critiquing of this part of the show into more Lightroom tips and tricks. I think it's safe to say, I feel Steve and I are both experts in Lightroom. We don't know everything, but we know a good amount, and we love sharing it with you all, and we feel this is an important part of the show. So we're going to dive into a little bit of Lightroom tips and tricks with your photos that you've submitted. This is from Photo Enthusiast members. It's less a critique, and here's why it's less a critique. You have, as Photo Enthusiast members, so many places to get your photos critiqued these days. This isn't one of them. This is our expertise in Lightroom. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to share my screen here, so that you will see this cascading window until I hit Lightroom, and open up our first shot from Roger called Impending Doom.
So Roger is my inspiration for all things bird photography. Those of you who are Pen members and you've watched our image review 2, the competition, Roger regularly has photographs featured in that competition. He does an outstanding job. But this is just, wow, this is awesome.
This is cool. I'm pretty sure this is a composite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But he did a really nice job. Look at how clean that is. I mean, if it's not a composite, it's absolutely incredible.
Well, we should check and see if Roger if this was the last picture. Did we just find his camera left on the beach?
Roger, are you out there? Are you still alive?
Let's go. Oh, we are in the library. Let's see if there's any notes that he added, because sometimes you all do that, and I don't see any. No. Okay. So I mean, you know, we don't see a lot of composites too often from our members, and so it's kind of fun too, especially ones that are done fairly well.
Clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Roger, quite frankly, if you're watching this, or for everybody that's listening, there's very little that I would actually do to this photograph. I love the color choice on the sky and the drama. I like the fact that it's kind of this red yellow color up here, and then that's carried on in the sand. At first, I thought maybe this was warmed up a little bit too much. Maybe on the rock it is. You could tone down some of the saturation here on the rock, and because it's very different than this rock, and I know it probably looks like a different material, but at the same time, just kind of cooling this down just a little bit will differentiate it from the sand a bit. And then me personally, I would go in and I clean up a bunch of these little prints. These look like dog prints, which are really cute, but this comes really close down to the edge. Do they see the mouse?
Yeah.
Moving around? Okay.
Yep.
This comes down really close to the edge, and I may remove these and just leave these prints in here. I think these look really cool. Maybe tone down these just a little bit just to draw your eye right on this pathway of prints right here. Obviously, your eye is going to get drawn to the tornado in the background. That's the subject matter. But yeah, this is.
But leaving that one line of prints nice and clean feels like it's connecting to a story that is all part of this. We're not quite sure what, but it makes more of a story. When we have the footprints plus those little extra dog prints, then it just looks like a regular beach that was included in the shot.
Yeah, you just do the single track, and they're leaving. You can tell as they get closer that they're walking away, which is okay. Obviously, you see this coming. So yeah, I would just kind of clean those up. I'd be interested in seeing this photo with those cleaned up. But
otherwise,
this is wow.
Yeah.
Well done, Roger.
And those footprints are from a mermaid, I'm sure. All right. Roger's going to bed, by the way.
Who's this guy?
Fred? Fred.
Yeah, they're from Fred, the cockeyed, literally cockeyed fish.
Wannabe flounder. Andrew's got a duck for us.
Oh, nice.
Female mallard, I believe. Yeah.
Now, Andrew, I have not met Andrew before, but he jumped into pen with both feet, and it's been awesome to see Andrew. So thank you for that. He always has images that he's submitting. He's commenting on the Facebook site. He's in the discussion board, and we really, really appreciate that. That's what the whole community is here for. So great job on this image. I think I would just like to see a bit of lightening on the duck.
Yeah, I'm going to first start with just a little bit overall exposure. So I noticed we're working on a D&G, Andrew, that you've already touched a little. That's great. We love to see what some of your edits that you're doing. And I'm going to bring that overall exposure up. I'm just kind of eyeballing until I feel like we're starting to lose a little contrast. And up at about one stop over where it was, I feel like we're starting to lose a little bit of that contrast. So I'm going to come down and touch on the shadows, which should be mostly the duck, and raise it just a bit more.
So I would have probably gone the opposite way, but I really like what you did here, actually.
Yeah, you would have started with shadows?
I would have gone to where he was on the exposure. So if we go back to import, and then I probably would have used the brush, and where am I here? dodge and just kind of kept the background dark and lightened up the duck. I actually really like what you did with that, Toby, by bringing out the exposure overall, because what that did is that it either way, it's differentiating the subject from the background, right? So you're either lightening the subject and leaving the background dark, or you're lightening the image, which does bring out the subject, which is still dark, and the background is getting closer to that blown out face, but you're creating contrast between the subject and the background. And that was a very slight lightening. So maybe bring that up and brighten up some shadows a bit. And this is a very rushed job, but
that looks very nice too.
Kind of see what I mean. So there's almost like one of two ways to go with this.
Yeah.
I don't know if auto masking must be on.
It's kind of, yeah, it is. It's a little slow, and your flow is a little low as well. But you might be able to use that trick I showed a few episodes ago, where you make the brush gigantic and just click.
Oh yeah, I always forget about that.
I know.
I'm kind of getting to the point now where you've used that, and I'm trusting Lightroom to do a good job on there.
Steve, I greatly prefer your version here, and here's why. There now feels like there's a light hitting the duck that I didn't see before when I just brightened the overall image. And the duck really feels a bit more 3D.
And I may even throw a bit of vignetting in there, just for a little bit of extra separation and depth. And I don't...
Give us a before and after. Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah. Andrew, if you're watching this, this was a really rushed job. I would have taken my time if, I was spending some time lightening this, but yeah.
I just want to show real quick where you brushed. I'm going to hit the brush key and hit the O to turn the masking on. O, turn the masking on. That's a little slow. And just to give you an idea, yeah, I mean, you were pretty quick with that, but it looks good. And even the fact that you didn't kind of touch at the very tip top of the duck just kind of fades into that darker feathers anyway.
Yeah.
And so it works.
Yeah. And then I'd probably go, and now I would do this in Photoshop, but I think that it's a small enough spot if you took this in Lightroom and did some healing. I hate to do this because it's actually, now that we've lightened the overall image, you notice it a lot less. This little rectangular spot on the duck was really apparent before when it was darker.
Part of the duck's feathers, though.
See where you can see it right there?
Yeah.
And then as we lightened it, it shows up less, but I would probably just take that out, because once your eye notices that, it just keeps coming back to it.
Yeah. I struggle with that though, because that's part of the duck.
Yeah, I hear you.
It wasn't like a little piece of plastic on them. But yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I think lightening it out though, you don't really notice it. So here's where it was before.
Yeah.
Lighten it up. Okay, let's leave it like that.
Okay, nice. Thanks, Andrew, for submitting. All right, we've got Adam Beck.
Nice.
A little bit of light painting. Do we have no shutter speed? 10 seconds. So I mean, this is one of the things that I love about photography, is that it can be from a composite like Roger just showed us to just picture of a duck, nice picture, profile picture of a duck, to a long exposure with sparklers.
It's pretty darn crisp, man.
Yeah. Did he do the sparkling, or did somebody stand behind him?
I don't know.
I think somebody stood behind him.
Yeah, because it doesn't, I don't know that this is, it looks like it continues on to somebody back here who's got, in fact, you can almost see some legs back there.
Yeah. And the bush, I don't know, the bush feels like it really fits with the kind of sparkly theme. You see, it's kind of it's some kind of shrubbery.
I think with this picture, though, it's so unapologetic as to what the subject is, that there's almost too much breathing room around whoever was modeling for this picture. I don't know if this is Adam or not, but you're pretty much at a square crop. I would almost just fill the frame with this.
Why not?
Well, I kind of center it up. I mean, I really like that. That's so cool, and I'm surprised that it's so crisp.
Adam's very good at being a statue.
If this is him, he's got pretty rad hair going on here too.
Yeah.
So no, this
cool
looks
shot.
This looks really neat.
Yep.
You could go in and you could just, now I'm nitpicking, but some of the real hot spots, you could darken this down just a little bit, because as you get outside of this circle, your eye starts to get a little distracted by the brightness down here in the grass, and on the feet there, you can see they're pretty blown out. Hit the J key. They're actually, you're not losing data there. So there's, you know, you can go in here and just darken this a little bit, keep all the light right here. But I do like it zoomed in tighter.
Yep. Nice. Thanks, Adam. Kyle. This is cool. So, you know, the use of foreground elements in composition, I feel like helps set people apart from, hey, there's a cool sunset snap, to, hey, there's a cool sunset. Let me go find something interesting to put in the foreground that leads the viewer's eye to it.
Yeah. Okay, with this, I don't recognize the name Kyle Skudlick.
No, I know, or just Kyle. Yeah, I know just Kyle. I've never seen his last name.
So if you're new to this, Kyle, welcome. Me not recognizing your name really doesn't say much. I kind of jumped into the whole Mish Mash thing just fairly recently. This picture, quite honestly, I don't have a lot of critique or suggestion. The only thing that I would love to see with this picture, I'll do it in just a second, and it's going to look weird to everybody because we've seen it this way, but we like to read left to right. And these leading lines are pretty profound coming in from this side, and obviously your eye is going to end here. It just feels a little backwards. And so in this case, what I would do is I would actually transform, flip horizontal. And me personally, I like this better. I think naturally it's a little less stressful to the eye. Naturally, we start down here. We notice all the elements within with the rebar poking up from the concrete and stuff. And then we end here in the bright section where the sun is. As far as edits go, I don't know. Do you like it better flipped?
I do. I do. One of the things that's interesting is this piece of rebar bothers me a little bit. It bothers me a little less now that it's flipped. It doesn't block me from coming in, but over here, it kept grabbing my eye and pulling me down to the corner. It seems like this ends in just another maybe 6 to 8 inches. And so I'd like to see that end there, and it might have some more cool kind of water texture around it as the waves. I also am curious. I mean, I'm trying to, really kind of find things to pick at, because overall, I think this is a great image. I was curious what a slightly longer shutter speed would look like. Maybe get to 1 second. Some of these ripples are a little distracting. And what happens if you get that kind of soft fuzz?
What was the, he was at 0.6 seconds, F11.
Yeah.
If you did a longer shutter speed, which I agree with Toby, it would be really cool to see that, because it would smooth out this water a little bit more. I'd probably bump my f-stop up unless you had a filter. Take this up to like f16, do a little bit longer shutter speed, because I think you're as long as you can possibly go. Nothing's blown out, but this reflection is obviously very, very bright. This right here is kind of throwing me off. I don't mind this at all. That's kind of cool, but this is throwing me off. And then this little bit of the reflection there, that's why I opened it in Photoshop, just to quickly go through. And if I kind of, this is sloppy, but again, kind of working off to the side here. Plus I got a Manhattan in hand.
And that's not another drink being made in the background you hear.
It may or may not be. Dude, you're already on number 2? Wow.
I think it was really weak.
Well, gin and tonic, you could throw those down pretty fast. Manhattan is made to be sipped.
I know. You're a sipper, I'm a gulper.
Right. Okay. Another one of those moments in the show. So anyway, what I'm doing is I'm just picking out a couple of minor distracting elements within the picture. And so I took this bright section out here. I took this bright section out here. There was one darker section right here that was kind of preventing my eye from just easily traveling to the subject matter back here. And I really like this.
That's a very nice shot.
This is a totally cool shot.
Yep.
So what I did obviously opened it in Photoshop, went to my lasso tool, eliminated this larger space right here. As long as you have a background layer open, you can hit the delete key, which should default to content aware fill. Otherwise, you would just select an area and right click, fill, content aware, make sure that that's checked in the Dropbox and hit OK. So I did that here. I did that in this bright area right down here and this one here. So it just kind of simplifies it a little bit. It becomes very unapologetic as to where the starting point is, where your eye should go, and then what the subject is, and nothing gets in the way. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you want it before and after, I don't have it imported back in, but we can kind of toggle back and forth here.
Yeah. It's
minor, but once you see it removed, it's just a little simpler. And Kyle, this is an awesome shot.
Nice job, Kyle. And Kyle says if you zoom in, you might be able to see Roy on the other side of the lake.
Let's see here. Where's?
Oh yeah, there he is.
There he is.
Yeah.
Right, let's go to 2 to 1. Oh, hey Roy, how you doing? Funny thing is with this Manhattan, I see 3 Roys over there.
All right, Kevin Walk.
Oh, Kevin and I were texting each other a couple weeks ago. They went out with their boat on the lake. If I'm not mistaken, Kevin, you can correct me if you're watching this, but went out there and there was some sort of issue with the boat and they got it fixed and finally had a day out on the lake. And he sent me some pictures and it looked like an awesome time. Obviously the boat is working and they're out having some fun. I love the sky in this.
You don't think they're paddling really hard here? You think it's
I don't know. It might be. It might be.
We've seen a similar picture from Kevin earlier where we really had kind of the sky mirroring the water. And we have that here again in this. And I like that. I like that.
Yeah. What's cool about this shot, Kev, is, and I can call him Kev because I know him personally pretty well, but you did a really nice job of cropping this. I don't know if you did crop it, but you framed it up nicely. You composed it nicely. You've got the foreground or the kind of where the land meets the water here is in the lower third. Maybe I like it down just a little bit more because I want to see more sky. It's very dramatic up there. But you've got this leading line of the wake from either side of the boat. It makes you feel like you're literally sitting on the back of the boat, looking back at this cool sky up above. The one thing that I will say is I would maybe consider, that's not it, go with a graduated filter. And if we bring this down, I know we've talked about this quite a bit on the show, and Toby uses graduated filters pretty frequently, and radial filters use a lot. What I like to see here is just a contrast between the sky and the water. You have a lot of crisp details down here in the mountain range, in the water, in the boat wake, et cetera, et cetera. The sky is also very detailed. I'd like the sky to just be softer as a contrast so that, I don't know, for me, it's just a lot more pleasing. So I would actually take clarity of the sky in this graduated filter and I kind of bring it down a bit. I may even reduce the blues just slightly on the saturation, and contrast you can kind of bring down quite a bit. I wouldn't bring exposure up. If you want to still get some details but have them just be softer, bring your exposure down just a touch. Yep. And the highlights, but clarity more than anything. You reduce that clarity. Now here's where we were clarity wise, and I brought it just way down. You can still see that there's this kind of puffy cloud texture going on, but it's not competing sharpness wise with the foreground. What do you think?
I like it. Yep. I also like your point about how this has been cropped in kind of a smart way. We're going to touch on when we get into the news section, the neat section about landscape photography. Just a matter of inches can be make a difference, and we see that.
Yeah.
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 I should be on my second drink already. I just realized that.
Wait. I know you guys can't see this right now, but what is that?
I know.
It's a totally different color than your first drink.
I was going to drink it to the same amount and then just kind of pretend like I was still on the same drink. But that's blown now.
Did you go from gin and tonic to margarita?
What am I drinking,
Chris, what did you make him?
It is the gin and tonic, but with limoncello San Pellegrino.
Oh, limoncello San Pellegrino. So that's not alcoholic.
Sorry. No, it's not.
Okay, that's fine. Let's get through these so we can be back on camera, because the more I drink, the more beautiful I look, and I want everybody to see that.
Oh boy.
All right. Hey, we got another one from Adam. He's got a shooting star.
Dude, he's kind of killing it here. I like Adam's shots.
I wish we had some, we've got some cool trees framing parts of this shot.
Yeah.
But I feel like the top left corner is like, what about me?
Yep.
I want to be framed too.
Yeah.
That's really all I can come up with off the top of my head looking at this.
I think as I look at this shot, a lot of the same thoughts, oddly enough, that I had on Kevin's photo here. Let me click done. Play into Adam's photo here, and that is that everything is very crystal clear. The trees are really crisp, and that's great. But honestly, this is one of those shots where you almost want to see less stars. You've got part of the Milky Way in here, which you can see a concentration. But there's also just so many stars around here, and this shooting star, or whatever we got going on here, is awesome the way he did it. So I don't know, crop wise, Toby, what would you do to
honestly, I might clone in a tree from the other corner.
Oh, take this right here and kind of bring it in over here, so it's natural framing all the way around.
Yep. Or from the bottom, a piece from the bottom. I think you could mask it pretty easily, because hey, a few more stars or a few less stars in the darkness. I think that's what I would do. Another option, yeah, you could go really thin and wide and get rid of that top right section as well.
Put this, so what I'm looking at here, Adam, if you're watching this, but everybody that's watching, is I'm taking this shooting star or whatever we have going on here, and this is the story now, and this is going to be in my top right third, and I'm going to create just a wide shot. I don't know if we have time to pull this into Photoshop real quickly.
We got all the time in the world. Your flight's not till 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out until I head to Santa Cruz tomorrow to go visit some family. I'm pretty excited about that.
Nice.
So, I'll just do each of these at a time.
Now, an astronomer is going to look at this and be like, what? Where was this taken? The Perseans is all messed up. But it looks good. It looks good.
So now we've kind of eliminated the concern of having the natural framing go on in 3 out of 4 corners, and we've just got it as the base at the bottom. You got kind of this wide format, which I think looks kind of cool. I don't know, maybe I came down a little too far.
I like it.
But
I like it. Can we zoom in on our fuzz? What is that? Is that a little bit of galaxy there you got?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. Something.
What are the settings on this? 2.8, 20 seconds. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about real quick here as I look at the settings. ISO 1600, 24 millimeters, f2.8 at 20 seconds, which is all great. Now, I would argue to say that 20 seconds, now when you zoom in, you can see that these dots, which are stars, are just becoming dashes. So you really want your stars to remain dots before they become dashes. And the reason that this happens is there's movement. Even in 20 seconds, the globe is spinning and there's movement that's occurring. So my point is 15 to 20 seconds is kind of the sweet spot on catching stars. If he would have done, say, 15 seconds on this exposure, these would not be quite so dashy. And you may have fewer of them showing up. He probably brought up some whites and highlights just a bit to really bring those stars out, and it looks great. Good job, Adam. But I think at 15 seconds, it may just look a slightly more crisp.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm nitpicking. Like, this is
if you're not going to blow it up big, 20 seconds is totally fine in my opinion. But also, and I think you're kind of saying this, there are a lot of stars in the shot. Wouldn't be terrible if there were a few less. I mean, it'd still have a good impact. So that's something to think about. And it is, there is the 500 rule, which is you take your focal length, you take 500, divide that by your focal length. I can't do that math when I'm sober, and I definitely can't do it now. But there's a newer rule though, because we got sensors that are significantly larger with significantly more megapixel packed into them. And that's why we're really starting to see movement even at 10 or 12 seconds on some of these cameras these days. And the PhotoPills app that I love does have the new, say you put in what camera you have, and you could say, I want to follow the 500 rule, which might give you a little bit of streak, or you can follow this new rule. I can't remember what it's called. And those will always be pinpoints for your sensor based on your focal. It's still based on your focal length and time, of course, but it's more strict. You're going to find it at the lower levels. Yeah. But lovely shot. And you could print this. I bet you could print this 16 by 20 and they'd still look like dots. Above that, I'm guessing you're going to start to see.
Yeah. Cool. It's an awesome shot.
Melanie, we were just on tour with Melanie.
I was going to say, this spot looks oddly familiar. I love the way her lens captured this sunburst.
But there's no me on the bridge.
Wait. Is there no? Yeah. I saw this little red section here. Maybe you were moving around.
I might have been waving. I just joked because if you go check David, did you post one too?
No, but I did process one of the shots, and I don't know. I don't think I saved it on my phone. I can't show you folks, but yeah, Toby went up. We were all down here shooting, and I was actually probably standing next to Melanie when she took the shot. I was at least close by, and Toby kind of laid right up here on this bridge, and very seriously, like you took your relaxing on top of the bridge very seriously. That was hard work for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was trying. Hey, let me tell a quick story about this photo, though. Those of you who watched my live Instagram, you heard this. I'll keep this brief. In 2005, I took a family vacation to Mount Rainier. And I got up super early, about 4 a.m., drove up top of the mountain all by myself with my little Canon G5 point and shoot, which did shoot raw. And I was just driving around taking pictures. I did Reflection Lake at dawn, and then I came across this waterfall. And I'm not sure exactly. I think the waterfall above the road caught my eye. I stopped, I looked at that, and then I realized there was this even more epic one down below. And so I took some pictures of it, entered those in my local fair, and I said to myself, you know what? If these get any kind of recognition, I'm going to take that as a sign to become more serious about photography. And I entered a couple of different pictures, a couple from Mount Rainier, a couple from the rest of that family vacation. And there was a second place award. I don't remember which got which. I should go back and look that up to make the story a little more complete. But they didn't win, but got recognition, either an honorable mention, one of them, as I said, second place. And the picture of Mount Rainier was a little note on the back of it when I went to pick up all my prints after the fair was over that said, I'd love to buy this. So I was like, whoo, that's a sign to get more serious about my photography, which at the time meant buy a better camera. Right. I get to upgrade. But it's kind of neat to be back here. How I could not have imagined 13 years down the road, taking other people here and teaching them photography and watching them enjoy the photographic opportunities that Mount Rainier and just this waterfall alone provide.
You still have that G5?
No, I had to sell that to fund the purchase of my Rebel XT.
That's pretty old school.
Yeah,
because I've still got a G9 kicking around somewhere, but that was well after the G5. So So when it comes to this picture, now I know that a lot of what we're doing here is much more critiquey than Lightroom tips, and maybe that's because we're drinking cocktails, so it just makes it easier than having to move the mouse around. So Melanie, what I was going to suggest on this photograph, it's beautiful.
You see her title?
Help to remove missed spots, please. Oh, I didn't notice missed spots.
I think there's a little bit of flaring that she might be talking about, or is there? I don't see.
Yes.
Yeah, those might.
Maybe She's a Sony shooter, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's why this picture's so beautiful.
You know, Melanie, you may be referring to kind of the haze that comes off. So I remember being down there, and the mist was substantial, but it wasn't big drops or anything like that. Like it would just kind of coat your lens with this haze. And if you dehaze it a bit, that would certainly help.
Ooh.
That also brings in some contrast, which is nice. In fact, I would probably up this contrast a little bit, bring the highlights down slightly. And because it's getting so yellow, I might, no.
Wow, but look what's happening up here with the grid of dots.
Yeah, you are kind of really starting to see it right there, aren't you?
Yeah.
So
I love what's happening to the waterfall as you do that, though.
Yeah. So all I've done is just a little bit of dehazing here, probably a little more heavy-handed than usual because of the Manhattan. But get into the orange. Maybe I bring the orange down just a bit. So all I'm doing here is I'm in the color panel. I've gone to the saturation of orange, and I've taken it from the middle here, and I brought it down. And then I probably go into the yellow and tone that down just slightly. So we're left with, you still have some yellow and orange tones in the sun, but it doesn't look too artificial. And I may consider boosting up the green just, actually it almost doesn't need it. This is getting pretty bright down here. So we've increased some contrast. We've taken some haze away using the dehaze tool, and then we've isolated some colors and reduced some of the yellows and oranges to make the sun look a little bit more official. Man, these green dots, maybe that is part of the water spots.
Yeah.
So anyway, see if I don't like reducing those completely. You'd have to work on those individually. This right here, this one ray that's purely green, and maybe this spot right here, I would remove those because they're a bit distracting from what's going on here. And for those of you a while back that read, I think it was a Tuesday tip. I don't think it was content that I sent out on creating sunbursts and how to do that. May remember that in this case, with this many bursts coming out of her lens, she's got an odd number of blades. So the rays are coming through the aperture blades. They're hitting the flat blade on the other side and ricocheting off. And this lens that she's using, good word, right?
It is a good word.
Is creating a really cool burst.
My new nickname.
Ricochet.
Wait.
I'm going to be T-Bone.
What was the name of that show where the men and the women dressed gladiators? Do you remember that show as a kid?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. American Gladiator.
Was there any one of them called Ricochet?
There might have been. Actually, that totally sounds like, it either sounds like an American Gladiator's name or it sounds like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
No,
those were all artists.
That's right. The greats.
Never mind. Yeah. Okay.
The Renaissance greats.
All right. We were talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on this trip. Okay. So we've done a little bit of work there, Mel. I think you're still watching. The other thing that I would suggest, now you can't change this on this particular photo, but I noticed that your shutter speed is 1.6 seconds. And I'll take some credit for that or some blame because I could have been advising you like, hey, set it f22, you got no filter on there, get it as long as you can, 1.6 seconds. This water was moving so fast in such volume that half a second, I think, would have showed a little bit more movement with a little less of this kind of this, I don't know what you'd even call this down here, but this kind of flattens out if you go too long on a waterfall, if you folks know what I mean.
Yeah. Melanie, I'm gonna make it my goal in the next day or two to tackle those green dot grid up there and see if what I do is take it into Photoshop and do a little very zoom in, content aware fill. That's what I would try. I'll see. We'll see.
I think it'd be
overall
a pretty
beautiful
easy task for Photoshop to handle.
But yeah, and I don't mind a green dot here or there. This one's a little distracting, but these down here are fine. But the regularity of these is a little distracting.
And that could be the mist that she was talking about.
Really nice.
So
I'd love to take the bridge out personally. I wish. Come on, Mount Rainier National Park
Service. You just say that because you're not laying on top of it.
No. Why didn't they should have put another nice, stone one there like they have over Christine Falls.
Yeah,
that kind of cement monstrosity. It's a little.
We should have painted on hashtag McKay Live right there.
Oh yeah,
Good advertisement.
Spray
or horrific advertisement more than likely.
No there. Hey, didn't we do this one from Pam already?
Yeah, we did last week, and we cropped it in tighter. She posted this on Facebook. I don't know if she posted it after our suggestions or before. I remember liking it, and it's a great shot. Pam, if you're watching, I love these shots. And just to jog the memory of anybody, this is probably last week's submission, but just in case you missed it, I think we took the horizon line down.
We don't got time for this.
Okay. Just be careful on cropping out the reflection, but really fill the frame more with that.
Right.
So
Steve is already a really generous guy in giving his time and energy, and apparently when he drinks a little, he's even more generous. Just send in all those pictures.
Cheers, Pam. Good job.
We'll literally be here till he flies to his family.
The reality is, I'm almost one Manhattan down, and I don't remember looking at that last week. Now everybody can see all that limoncello you got going on in there.
Yeah, limoncello doesn't have, Jody tells us, Jody, miss you. Hope to see you on a workshop soon. Doesn't automatically have alcohol in it. What, all those bottles in Italy that they're selling is just lemon sugar? Is that right? It was a joke that I missed. Oh, and Melanie says, I don't know. I'm not drunk. Melanie says she tried content aware, cloning, spot healing, and they all didn't work that well. ... All right. So it does. I'm not saying it looks like an easy fix. I think it's one of those kind of small time, tedious, a little bit here, a little bit there. But it's a neat challenge that I'd like to try to tackle. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah, as the thing with Photoshop is virtually anything is possible with enough time and effort. But it's like, how much time and effort do you want to put into that versus picking another photo to put that kind of time into. It was a great shot, no question about that. And but she's probably proved me wrong. I thought that could be an easier fix with Photoshop, but if she's given it a try and it's not coming out, then gotta just keep at it, keep on keeping on. Well,
yeah. And that's what poor Mel wanted to shoot the stars. Never worked out in Glacier. Smoky skies here in the Olympics.
Gosh,
but she's going with us to New England, to New Zealand, and stars there.
I felt so bad. We were in Glacier and we just weren't getting the stars. And I kept telling Melanie, don't worry about it. There's going to be so many stars on the Olympic trip. We'll have Ruby Beach. We'll have Rialto Beach. We're going up to Mount Rainier. Toby's already seen the stars up there. And we got totally smoked in. So, yeah, sorry, Mel.
Hey, let's move into the show we call Tech Barf. And that's where we talk about just some different technology stories. We try not to dwell on this too much. I mean, we both do love technology to a degree.
Yeah.
But we also don't want to dwell on this because it's only a small part of what photography is. Yeah.
It is. Some of you have watched before. I reference this from time to time. I was a skateboarder. I still am a skateboarder. I just haven't skated in a couple of years.
Can you do a kickflip?
No, that kind of came out as I was a ramp guy. I was a half pipe guy. Had a half pipe at my house. Everybody came to my house after school and skated.
Can you do an ollie Oxenfree?
That does not exist.
Sounds like it should.
No. Oh gosh. I could do a stale fish grab front side air.
Ooh,
yeah,
that sounds impressive.
I know. It does sound
I bet
impressive.
it was.
Anyway, it involved cool equipment, right? And that was the technical side. The technical side was certainly involved in learning tricks and stuff like that. Just like using the technology of your camera plays into. It's probably why I fell in love with photography. But I liked the equipment. I liked the stuff too. And photography is kind of like that. So I enjoy talking about this stuff, but it's the artistic side of photography that I probably would prefer. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's important that we touch on this tech barf from time to time.
Yep.
Now, I will confess that most of the articles referenced in this week's notes, I probably have not read because we've been on tour.
You usually don't read them.
I just asked Toby what's going on in the industry. What do we need to know from Mish Mash?
And truthfully, he's not paid enough to read them. I mean, he just does this show because he's a good guy. So I'm fine with that.
For some reason, you guys keep me coming back here.
But before we get to Tech Barf, talking about gear, I was testing on this trip these Breakthrough Photography, that's the name of the company, magnetic filter system. Watch this. Dang it.
Dude, that was horrible.
I know. All right, the magnets aren't that strong.
It is cool.
It's pretty cool. Everybody on the trip that saw this was like, ooh. Because it is one of those things where it's like, why didn't anybody think of this sooner?
Yeah.
Why do I spend time screwing filters on and off when you just use some magnets and boom?
And the nice thing with this is you've got an 82 millimeter ring, right?
Yep.
And then you've got a step down ring on the back of it that takes it to, he's got multiple step down rings, 77, 67, whatever. What is that, 77?
67.
That is, okay,
Yeah.
so that's the same as my camera.
Yeah.
And then, but the filters are pretty large and you just put those in there and it's, this system is probably the best that I've seen in terms of, you know, just putting something fixed on your camera and then being able to quickly change filters and pop them in and out. I think the only thing is if you want to stack filters.
Exactly. Not perfect because there's no real way to stack filters. What this company's done to kind of deal with that is combine filters. So this is a circular polarizer and a 3-stop ND together. They sell a circular polarizer plus a 6-stop as well.
Say that fast 4 times.
No. And I had struggled with it once. And also, they do have a clip-on system that clips onto this for square filters as well. So,
that's right.
So there are options for it. You are paying a bit more, but we're oohing and ahhing over the fact that it's magnetic. But the most important part is what is the quality like? And we both have shot with this over the last week, and no color cast and no degradation of quality to your images. These are really high quality pieces of glass in here. Really happy with it. Can give it 2 thumbs up. My full review will be out very soon, but you basically heard the gist of it. One other downside is they are a bit more expensive, each filter. Each filter runs somewhere between $160 to $200, where you can get an 82, a good circular polarizer at the bigger size for like 120, I say, and then you can get a decent one for maybe around 100 or just under that. So
you
pay a bit
what
more.
The starter kit is for that?
Well,
the cost is
the magnetic holder is $24.
Oh,
and
gosh,
so then you just
awesome.
Buy the filters you want, and let's round up and say each filter is about 200.
So if you have the Nissi system and you buy their starter kit, which includes a polarizing filter, right?
Yep.
What is that right out the gate?
Ooh, you're up over 400 very quickly.
Yeah. So if you're paying $24 for the holder, and then you pay a little bit more for the filter, but it incorporates polarizing and ND. Yeah. I'm not a big filter user. I have one 9-stop ND filter in my bag that I've used for years, and I figure, if I need something else, I'll just work on it in post. Yeah. It's probably not the best choice, but I have yet to just invest money on a filter system. This to me was one of the most impressive things that I've used. And you mentioned that it doesn't hold that hard, but actually it's super.
I mean, it's easy to pry out, but it's not coming out on its own.
And I do not have fingernails at all, which I was a little worried. Like, okay, this is just going to be a pain for me, but it's not a problem at all.
Were you born without fingernails?
They exist. They're just really darn short.
I wasn't sure.
That's my own doing. This thing, I love this. I thought it was great. So easy. And every single tour, somebody gets filters stuck on their camera.
Yes.
No problem with this.
Yep. It happens. A filter gets stuck to a lens. That we usually can get those out pretty easily. It's the filters get stuck to the step up, step down rings.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah. We're 100% on getting them off, but sometimes they're more frustrating than others.
Yeah. And just Kyle points out that for rotating the polarizer, the adapter has a ring built into it. That's this kind of backside. And downside, it's a little sticky at times. It rotates easily, and then it kind of sticks in the spot for a while. So, it isn't perfect. Also, this version I'm using, the widest lens I've used is 28. Breakthrough Photography was very upfront and said, hey, we got a little vignetting wider than 17, but our version 2 out this fall solves that. So, again, it's a nice system.
That stickiness on the rotation may have occurred when you spilled your gin and tonic and limoncello on the filter holder the other night. Yeah.
Okay.
Jump the gun on
yeah.
post-tour drink.
Yeah. Roy points out a biggest thing is color cast. You know, that's the biggest sign for cheap gear. Yes. We had a client come on a tour last year, and he was very proud of the fact that his local camera store had sold him these indie filters that were way cheaper than anything on Amazon or B&H. And I was like, that's great, Fred. Let's call him Fred. I was like, that's pretty cool. Yeah, Fred, he came along. And then we got to a little waterfall and threw him on. And he's like, hey, Toby, why are my pictures all magenta? Did I screw up my white balance? And you're looking, no, that is that cheap ASS filter you bought at that camera store and put on your camera. Yeah. And you can't fix that color cast. You can change your white balance that deals with it a little bit, but basically when you use that filter, you better like your black and white pictures, because that's about all you can make with that.
Yeah. And so, filters probably more than anything in photography. You get what you pay for.
Cool.
I just would never go super cheap on my filters. Now, a system like this, I think, can really save you some money compared to the Lee system or even Nissi. But yeah, I've never had good luck with cheap filters, and that's probably why I just have one really good 9-stop filter in my bag.
Yep. Just a reminder, we've got a lot of wonderful, interesting photography articles that Roy has collected from the internet for the last week. You can find those at photorec.tv/MMH. That stands for Mish Mash Highlights. What is the fighting, the mixed martial art? MMA. It's very close to MMA.
Yeah, mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put in the chat, who do you think? Who would win MMA?
Watch out for the gun. Watch out for the guns, man. They'll get you. I've never been in a fight in my life.
One time in 8th grade.
Did you get beat up, or did you do the beating?
I think neither. I mean, it was two
usually
8th graders.
The way 8th grade
I was trying to defend my friend's honor. Yeah, we don't need to go into that story.
That's a good cause.
Yeah,
I'm a big anti-bullying guy, so.
Yeah.
Anyways.
We'll see. Nikon.
I would totally kick your ass in MMA, though.
I think so. You're a tall guy.
Just bonk you on top of the head.
We've got all of these teases from Nikon on their mirrorless cameras. We've got the Z6 and Z7 are the names we're hearing now. One is going to be a 24 megapixel low light beast, and the other is going to be a high 45 megapixel kind of landscaper camera dream.
So
3 lenses. Sorry.
Yeah,
And one of those is going to be an f.95.
Oh, that's right. So this is going to be awesome for Nikon. I'm really excited about this. I've been kind of skeptical for a while. I've been frustrated with the fact that it's taken a long time for this stuff to get announced. I'm sure that Canon will probably be right on Nikon's heels. Everybody seems to believe that. And now that things are becoming more official, I'm starting to really believe the rumors. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. And the one thing that I'll say about Nikon, though, is I really, really, truly hope that they create a good live view system when you're shooting.
Yes.
Because the D850, in my opinion, is the best DSLR on the market. 35 millimeter DSLR on the market right now. And we get a number of them that are starting to appear on. I'm starting to slur my words. I haven't even had one of these. We get those that start to show up on our tours, and I love helping people with that camera. I love shooting with that camera, but it drives me crazy that you pay all that money and you've got this live view system that is just, yeah. I mean, they could get that figured out. Canon has had that figured out in even their Rebel models for years now, and it's outstanding.
Yeah.
But you combine that with the sensors, they're Sony sensors, right, in Nikon?
They are still
the high-end Nikons. It's just awesome. So if they get that figured out in their mirrorless system, I think it's just
going to be interesting. Cool. And it's the autofocus side of live view that I'm really curious to see how Nikon does. Now, tied to this is the rumor that Canon's mirrorless announcement is going to come right after Photokina. Photokina, I just have to look it up to remind myself, end of September 26th to 29th, 2018. I'm hearing rumors it's going to be sooner than that. So this is exciting. This next month is going to be quite exciting.
Yeah.
With this. And then there's the rumor that Sony has some big gun waiting in the shadows for Nikon and Canon to release and then be like, bam, bam, boys, here it is.
Okay, I think that's cool. They probably do. And it's going to be a stat killer. It'll come out and it'll have these amazing stats. It'll be like 100 megapixels. It'll take 700 frames per second with a buffering rate of 2,000 images or something nuts. But Sony's already killing it. Just simplify your menu system and get your touchscreen figured out, and then you're in great shape.
Yeah.
But I mean, Sony, I don't want to downplay Sony at all, because I really respect what they've been doing, and they've been at it for a number of years now, well ahead of what Canon and Nikon have been doing.
Well, I really just wanted to be like, bam, boys. I don't think it's true. I mean, the A7 III is a fantastic camera. It just came out. A7R III has not been out very long. The one we're waiting for is the A7S III, and that's a very specific niche camera. I don't see that.
Is that more for video?
That is more for video and or super low light.
Okay.
12 megapixels, and maybe they'll bump it up to 24, but I'd be shocked if they did that. I think it's going to stay a low megapixel number and just be amazing in low light. That's the next camera we're waiting for, except for their crop sensor version. And so I suspect there'll be a very good crop sensor Sony coming soon. But I think it's just maybe Sony saying, hey, yeah, we got something. Sure. Don't worry about those other guys, because they want to, keep the lead. That's another news story. In the last, I can't remember, 6 months it is, Sony has taken the #1 spot in interchangeable lens cameras. In the full frame camera market, Sony is now #1 overall in the US. Now, this is just in number of cameras sold and in a dollar amount. It's not that surprising, and it doesn't mean it's the end for Canon and Nikon, because who's got the newest cameras on the market right now? Sony. So they're going to be selling more. But it is still kind of a big milestone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, considering where Sony was a number of years ago, and not that long ago, they've made some huge strides, and they've been on the cutting edge. And I remember, maybe some of you folks do too, that Sony was in a lot of trouble financially. Their TV market was just hitting the wall, and investors didn't know what to do with them. And they said that they were going to focus a lot of their dollars and their research and development back into their camera system. And look what we have now. It shows. They're killing it. They're doing a great job. So.
I really don't think that Sony, I mean, Roy said, it'd be funny if Sony stomps like DJI did to GoPro. Remember GoPro came out, here's our Karma. It folds up. It's kind of small. And like 2 weeks later, DJI was like, ours is twice as small and it does twice as much amazing stuff. And, and the Karma is done. I don't think we're going to see that.
Too many people invested in the whole Canon world and the Nikon world. And they'll come out with native lens attachments, but they'll have adapters and stuff like that.
But basically 90 days from now, 60 days from, 45 days from now. It's hard to remember how many days are in a month. 45 days from now, we're going to know a lot more. And it's going to be fun. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, and what's cool to see is Nikon and possibly Canon are kind of following in Sony's footsteps. They've started inviting folks like you, YouTube reviewers, to these events where you get to try out new products and stuff like that. And I'm sure you sign NDAs and all that good stuff. But the chatter kind of starts to pick up. And, so that's the other thing that we're kind of doing here, is looking at, okay, what kind of mailings come out from Canon and Nikon? And they don't come to me. They come to Mr. 270,000 over here. But if you want to be one of the 11 subscribers to my Instagram feed, you can. Sorry.
That's all right. You're getting up there. We need to get you a lot more, though. You also need to post more regularly. You don't have to post every day.
YouTube, I'm non-existent. I have like 3 subscribers, but that's not my thing.
No.
This being in front of the camera once a week with Mish Mash is about my limit. It's fine.
All right. Let's move on to, Roy called it neat stuff. I like that, neat stuff. We got an article here from Imaging Resource, Good Guys. When composing an image, photography is a game of inches. And really, I just want to share that title with you. It's something that we talk about. You have that saying about, kind of own all four corners. What you're saying there.
That's it.
Own all four corners.
Before you push that shutter button, I go clockwise, check all four corners, lower left, upper right, lower right, and then, make your composition adjustments as needed, then take your shot.
Are you only looking at the corners?
I'm only looking at the corners when I shoot. I am taking the whole scene in, obviously, and I'm positioning what I want my subject to be in one of the thirds and that kind of stuff. Not 100% of the time, but most of the time. And just before I click that shutter button, I check my corners to make sure I'm not missing some leading lines or exiting lines that are starting too early and being cut off too soon. But then when I process, I always like to leave a little bit of room in my photographs. When I process, that way I can crop in. And once I crop in, I'm really looking at all edges of the frame to make sure that it's clean and you don't have that story that starts and abruptly ends. And you had a great analogy on our image review on this last trip.
Yeah.
And you talked about breathing room. And you also used the word oomph a lot.
Yeah.
Too much, in my opinion, because you had already used it on your YouTube video.
Well, that's kind of oomphy of you.
But you're on quite an oomph kick lately. But it was pretty fitting when you used it, and the breathing room really made a lot of sense.
Yeah. We don't get to do this on all of the tours. We try to do it as often as possible because we find it extremely valuable. And that is sit down about midway through, or at least partway through the tour, and everybody have an image they submit. And then we share some feedback. And what people find valuable in this is, one, what do we see in the image? Oh, that little bright spot over there, take that out. And suddenly your eyes widen and you're not stuck on that little white pebble. And other participants find it valuable to see what other people saw. I mean, we all go to these same locations. And I remember a year or two ago, I posted a picture of a bunch of us photographers on a McKay workshop all lined up on a bridge. And somebody was like, why would you want to do that? You're all getting the same picture. No, F you, you grumpy person.
Is that really necessary?
I didn't say the whole word. Everybody's getting a different picture. And that's what we love in the image reviews. We all are at this location, and look, man, Melanie got this reflection down in the water, and Chuck got this cool 3 starfish right here. And I was over taking pictures of a dog running on the beach.
Cheerio.
Yeah. That was a fun name for a dog.
I mean, that's time well spent, though.
Yeah.
Taking pictures of dogs running.
I walk up to his owner and I'm like, hey, your dog's really cute. He's running a lot. Get him to run back and forth. I'll take some pictures. And the guy's like, okay. I kind of wanted a little bit more like, oh, cool, man. All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Then to his girlfriend, he's like, all right, go over there and you'll run right in the horn. Okay.
You're all excited. I got this killer picture of your dog, man. Oh, thanks.
I've emailed him too. He never emailed me back. I mean, that's fine. I didn't expect anything, but I was like, here's.
Did you tell me you're a photo wreck, Toby?
No.
Oh, you used your alias. He used his alias, Julia Roberts. Yeah, that throws people off, man. They think you're weird.
Chris, can we get another one here? Please.
Chris is too busy cracking up over here.
So what the hell were we talking about? Image reviews are useful.
No, I'm good. I'm getting down to this. It's almost dessert time. Check that out.
All right.
I already had dessert.
Is there any desserts in the bottom of mine?
Oh, you were asking for me for another one?
Yeah, get you another one.
Well, I'm pacing myself because we're going to record some of these image reviews after this.
Oh, God.
This is going to be...
I feel much better about the plumbing in the new house, though.
Geez. Yeah. This is either going to boost your YouTube channel a lot, or you're just going to go... You're going to lose a lot of subscribers.
I'm at the point where, and I've been here for a bit, where, I've always been me, but I've often been a little bit more careful. And, this is me. And if I want to try out a couple of drunk critiques, I'm going to effing try out a couple of drunk critiques.
And just for the record, I think I was the one that probably tabled this idea to begin with. And you really ran with it. And then I second guessed myself. I'm like, I don't know. Do we do that? Are we going to upset people? They submit images for us to look at. And, here we are just kind of sipping our cocktails, but it's kind of fun. Post-tour, it's really fun.
Hold on, Kristen. She's about to go to bed because she's got to go to work tomorrow. I'm so sorry. She's a little bummed that picture was orchestrated. The dog. No, see, that's the point. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Kristen. So this is, if anybody's seen, it's a more recent picture on my Instagram. Make pictures. That means from the point of like saying, hey, this is cool. This dog is running all over the beach. Hey, dude, have him run in a straight line. I'll get a nice picture of him. That's making a picture. I learned that a while ago when photographing weddings, struggling, taking pictures of this couple or that couple and be like, oh God, the light's terrible here. Dad, move them. Ask those people to move 3 steps this way and take a picture. And then bam, it is so much better. So it's all part of the process. And I'm totally fine with that. If I ruined it for you, that's okay. I still like you. All right. All right. Let's bring this back to this title of when composing an image, photography is a game of inches. So I like that analogy. I like my analogy of a breathing room. Anything that's an important element in your frame, I picture it as an alive creature, and it's going to breathe. Yoga breaths, deep ones. And you want it to have enough room that it's not right up against the edge, and it might stick an appendage off the frame as it breathes, or a part of it. So you give those elements a little bit more space, not only from the edges of the frame, but from other elements in the frame. Which leads me to another good article from Petapixel. I got a new name for Petapixel. It's like Photo Barf 24/7, because they just...
Well, I was going to say, I'd say like 85% of the links in Photo Barf come from Petapixel, right?
Yeah, yeah. This is some guy's video. I'm not going to give him credit because let's click on it real quick and see who it is so we can give him credit.
5 signs you're progressing.
Yeah. Who is this? This is Mark Denny. He right now has just 7.6 thousand subscribers, and he's got 5 signs you're progressing in photography. Number 1 is composition.
Yep. You're
thoughtful about your composition. This brings me back to critiquing Kyle's picture of saying, oh, cool sunset, click. Or, ooh, cool sunset. Let me find something that makes this stronger, that works, that leads the eye.
Yeah, so far I like this guy. So maybe you ought to consider following him. I don't know. Okay, yeah. But he threw histogram in there. I really like this guy.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what you were going to say.
We talk about histogram 24/7 on our tours. And when you can kind of master what the histogram is telling you, trust me, you will become a much better photographer. Your exposures will be much, much better.
Yeah.
Because we get so misled when we go out in these different lighting situations, whether it's nighttime or bright daylight. You've got different cameras with different quality LCDs and LEDs on the back of the camera body, and you look at it and you say, oh, that looks great. And then you put it on your computer and it looks totally jacked up. Your histogram never lies. And so it's important to pay close attention to that. You've got to pay close attention to your shutter speed at handheld. But I'm glad that he put that in there. Composition and histogram, I'd probably put those as my top 2.
Yeah. Well, I like this, except I'm concerned that people feel like, so his point here, and I'm showing this now on the screen so folks can see, I think, that you should be using your histogram to check in on what's being recorded. Yes, absolutely agree. But the more photos you create that have a histogram output that looks similar to this, the less you'll have to manipulate your exposure during post-processing, resulting in cleaner, crisper images. I don't disagree with that, but I also don't want people to think that the only good histogram is the one with a hump in the middle.
No. And we talk about this when you read a histogram, is not to pay such close attention to the spikes in the histogram, and especially the colors that are being shown to you. I mean, we've had discussions with clients out on tour that really kind of get wrapped up in the different colors of the histogram and what the spikes are doing. That's not the point. Just look at the highlights. Just look at the darks to whites. The spikes can be somewhat relevant when you get into your post-production. I do use them there. But just looking at where the bulk of the data shows up, if it's a scene that is extremely dark and extremely light and you have a lot of data in the blacks, a lot of data in the whites. You want to find that balance if you're intending on capturing it in one shot. Your histogram is critical, and just the difference of one click of your shutter wheel can really help you out in post-production with your ability to manipulate data that's been captured. If you lose the data, if it's washed out, you're not going to get it back. And if you lose it and it's just not there in the blacks, and you go to print that large, you're going to have these little spots of just flat black, and it's going to look goofy. So histogram is key. There you go.
Yeah. So it's really not a bad histogram until you've slammed up against the red scribbles.
Yep.
It can be over there near them. And, you know, I use this example all the time. You're photographing one. So we didn't get to photograph the stars at Mount Rainier, but we did have a really cool crescent moon setting between pine trees. And your histogram looks ultra funky when you're photographing the moon because it's a dark sky with this little bit of white. So you have stuff that's way over to the left, and then you might have a little spike that's way over to the right. But as long as it's not slammed up against the side like an MMA cage match with me versus Steve against the fence, I would be the one in the middle. Steve would be squished against the fence.
Probably. Is this what they're seeing now? Are they seeing the screen? Yeah, absolutely. And we do talk about this. Even if you're just, and it kind of depends on the camera. This is where good equipment can play a pretty big role. If you've got, if you got a Nikon D850 and you're just barely off of this all black wall right here, or the Sony products with the dynamic range that you can get there, you're fine. You've got a lot to work with. Some of the cheaper camera sensors, it doesn't mean that they're bad. You just have to be careful as you're getting close to these edges, and very careful on all camera bodies, no matter how high the quality, when you start to get to this blown out highlight, unless it's what you're going for with this kind of, real sun flare sort of look or something like that.
Yep. Okay, good. Let's stop that sharing and tell you another. So you've seen him, and again, you can go to photowreck.tv/MMH. Number 3 on this list, 5 signs you're progressing, is lenses. Are you shooting with multiple lenses? The quality of the lenses is irrelevant. What matters is you're
irrelevant. Sorry,
I might have gone too fast. I might have.
That's good.
Irrelevant. What matters is you have a choice when approaching a scene. All right, I don't have to paraphrase the rest of this because I'm just poorly reading it. Basically, you come up to a scene and you think about what lens is going to work best for you. You don't just use the lens that's on your camera.
Yeah, I think I'm interested in the next point. He talks about lighting. Is he talking about artificial lighting, light fill, or see? Now, I probably would have put lighting in number 1.
Yeah,
because all we're doing in photography is we're capturing, we're figuring out where light is, and we're working with that, right? And so you figure out the lighting, then you figure out your composition, check your histogram, that type of thing. So I understand why he's doing this. The lens thing I probably would put down a little further for me personally, but my journey has been using a lot of different types of lenses to capture what I want. And now I'm kind of in this place where I'm trying to use fewer lenses and move myself and really challenge myself to work out composition and stuff with the limited lenses that I might have with me. But that's more of a personal thing. So I get what you're saying.
His light is here is, are you shooting in better lighting conditions? And so basically, thinking about golden hour, thinking about, and I don't love that. I would say, do you know how to handle the different light conditions? And ideally shoot for the better light conditions. But if you're stuck with harsh light, know how to handle it. What kind of shots should you do? Where should you place a subject if you're photographing a subject that can be moved? So a little bit more there.
Yeah, that's a good point. And usually midday light, I find that a lot of those photographs, I kind of go in with the mindset that I'm going to make those black and white. So I'm going to eliminate color from that if I've got harsh light. And so I want the shadows to fall in places where I think about them as a black and white. Even if I don't process them that way, at least I'm thinking about it that way, and I can take better photos in harsh light as a result.
A little distracted. We've lost our outdoor ambient light, and I'm feeling like we're getting a little smurfish.
Smurfish? You're getting blue?
A little blue. I'm already wearing the blue shirt, so
yeah, we kind of are, huh?
We'll fix that before the critiques, and the rest of you just put on your rose-colored glasses. Number five, post processing.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I like this guy.
I know, I do too. There's all these little YouTubers chasing my tail. Get off my tail, man! I'm trying to make a living. No, it's great. It's there is tons of room for all of us, and I love all of this education that's out there. And post-processing is huge. It's huge. I feel like I'm on this little bit of a plateau. I'm frustrated. I need to find some educational materials for myself.
With your post-processing?
With my post-processing.
Interesting.
That takes me up a little. I feel like I'm not really doing anything different than I was basically a year ago to my pictures. And I'm not unhappy with them, but I feel like with a little bit more education, I can be on the upward trend again.
We'll just get you into PPA's IPC. That'll
I know that's
post-processing to a whole different level.
That's a good point.
But you could take a chapter out of my book and end up wanting to throw your computer across the room because it's well,
that brings up a good point. Those who are photo enthusiast members, I mean, you get to see David Newbold, who is a member who is participating in the PPA, which is the photographic
Professional Photographers of America.
There you go.
International Photographic Competition, IPC. It happens once a year. I know we talked about it a lot on this show, but David Newbold is such a great success story. Just entered his first competition this year. 3 out of 4 photographs merited. And if you don't know what that means,
huge.
Please go back and take a look at previous videos. We talk a lot about it on the Penn site. It is huge. He's off to just a great start. We're super proud of him. And it is a great resource to kind of push your editing to a new level. Even if competition's not your thing, you don't want to get into that, you can always take part in it. I promise we're friendly. We're not going to put you down or anything like that. But what I consider this to be is nutritional feedback. I've said many times, probably even on the Mish Mash, that showing your photos to your friends and family members is like eating candy. It's a lot of fun and you kind of get a sugar high out of it, but it's not nutritious. So we like to kind of sprinkle in a little bit of the sweets as we give you a nutritious meal and take a look at your pictures. So take advantage of that. That's what we're here for.
Yep. My clicker's broken.
Oh boy. Are you taking a survey?
I am. It was the next question. We're going long here, but I just want to, do you watermark your photos? This is the case against watermarking. This is a Petapixel article, and again, photorec.tv/MMH. Steve, do you watermark your photos?
I do, but I've changed my watermarking over the years. A while back, there was like a 60% off sale, and I had a signature made from photologo.co. Some of you have seen that. The problem with that is they all look the same. Even if the display of the signature is different, you can pick out a photologo.co signature like that. And I don't like that anymore. So I've just gone to a very basic text, Steve Scurich Photography. It's like a light gray text. And I tend to put that just on, I virtual map most of my stuff that I share. I put that down in the lower corner or in the center, wherever it feels appropriate. But I don't want it to take away from the image. I just want it to be,
it's on the mat, not on the picture.
Mat. Yeah. I don't, the metadata, I was critiquing somebody's photo in the discussion board the other day, and the signature or the watermark was really large.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful picture. May have been Andrew's, actually. My memory is escaping me, so my apologies. And Andrew, I don't mean to put you on the spot here. But the picture was gorgeous, and it was really cool to kind of help him with that. And one of the suggestions I made was to take that off of there and just kind of put it down a little more indiscreetly in the corner so that people can reference who it's from, but it doesn't take away from the visual of the image itself.
Yeah.
And I personally really like that.
Yep. I don't watermark mine. This survey, it seems most people don't. I mean, there's just so many ways to easily remove watermarks if they seem to detract more from the photos than otherwise. That's not a scientific poll though. With a title like that, people who don't watermark their photos are going to be drawn to it. So
yeah, and it's not bad if you do. My point is just that it takes away from the quality of the photograph, and ultimately you just want people focused on what the story of the picture is telling you, not who the maker is.
Yep. All right. We're gonna just kind of we've gone long, and we've got some.
Hey, look at Kevin's question.
Critiquing to do. Yeah. So we're gonna skip the stock photo update, where Roy and I update you on how little money we've made from stock photography. I actually was thinking, I think it was on this workshop this week, I think I'm going to take a few of my favorite photos off stock photo, because those are really some of my favorite photos that I could sell, you know, for fine art. And if they're up on stock photo site where you could download them for 25 cents, that seems to detract a little. So I'm going to certainly continue my stock photography experiment, but I'm not going to put all of my best work up there. So we'll be back with updates on how much or how little we've made soon. Photos from space is a part of this show that we do sometimes, but we're going to skip that. And we're going to go right to a couple of Q&As. Kevin Walk. Kev, since he's friends with me. He's looking at a filter brand called Breakthrough, wondering if they're better than Tiffin. Yes, they are. Tiffin isn't bad. I've never really had any bad experiences with Tiffin, but they are a more budget brand, and the quality isn't quite as good. And these Breakthrough photography filters seem to be very, very good. They don't just have the magnetic ones. They have screw-on normal ones as well. And they seem to be designed very well, and the quality is excellent. So yes. Andrew, I don't quite understand this question. Andrew, do they do any type of critique on the option 2 photos, or is there a way to see the post, or is there no post for the photo? This was my first time. I think he might have submitted an image for option 2.
Yeah, so what we do, Andrew, for option 2, it's quite different than image review option 1, which I know you've been pretty active in. Option 2 is submitting 1 photo per month in more of a competition format. So you finish your photo completely. You submit that to option 2 into a Dropbox folder link. And then David, Ali, and myself take a look at those, and we select the top 5 photos from that month's submissions that should be included in our image review. And basically they're the top 5 photos of the month, and then we select a judge's choice, or sometimes multiple judges' choices, but there's always a top image that wins a prize. And Bay Photo Labs has started to sponsor this. The prizes awesome. Are just getting really, really cool. And so when we talk about those 5 images, many times we have made some changes to those images, and we talk about what changes have been made just to make it a slightly stronger image. But one of the things we're finding with option 2 is that you folks are finishing off these images so nicely that there was one month a couple months back that we really didn't make any changes to any of the pictures, and we just simply talked about what the strong points were and where some areas of improvement could be had. So where image review 1 in the discussion board, I know this can be a little confusing, is much more of a community effort to kind of chime in. And a lot of times what I do, because I just don't like to type a whole lot on image reviews, is I'll download it from the discussion board, I'll pull it into Photoshop, make some changes, and then kind of talk a little bit about those and show you what I mean, because just visually, I tend to learn better that way. So kind of like my Tuesday tips, I assume you guys might as well. So I hope that makes sense, Andrew. But the image review option 2 is much more of a competition style, and you should consider your image completely done. And there is a tutorial that I did a while back, which talks about the way I would go through the submission process before getting an image into the competition. I go to Facebook with a few images, call that down to 1 or 2 pictures, go on the discussion board, get some feedback, go back and forth a little bit until I get what I consider to be a finished image, submit it to option 2, which would involve a virtual mat, a title for the image that's creative, no watermark. And we are getting pretty serious about that, because now we got some prizes on the line. We've been doing enough. We've been talking about it enough. And so
Yeah.
Anyway.
Is it harsh to say? I mean, sometimes some people aren't ready for option 2, in their photographic journey.
It's we encourage people to jump in, but if you're just getting started with post-production and you're really kind of learning and stuff, some people naturally just pick it up very quickly and have an artistic eye and figure out what to do. But if you're just kind of trying a bunch of different things and you want some feedback, image review 1 on the discussion board is for you, and the Facebook site. The competition, we really encourage people to submit, but I'm blown away at the quality of the images that are coming through that competition link. In fact, David Newbold, at least a couple of his images that went on to win merits, he had submitted there in competition, and he was deeply involved in the discussion board and going back and forth, and he made a lot of changes. He put a nice comment up just a minute ago in the chat about the help that he received from the pen community leading up to the real. What we want to do is use the same framework that PPA does with their IPC competition, apply that to you folks in a more casual environment where we can kind of help you along the way. But then if you do want to get serious and go to that PPA level of competition, you're kind of prepared to go. And man, we're the first folks to just celebrate your win.
And I mean, I say that saying some months I might not have an image that would make it in those top 5. I mean, so that's fine. I won't cry about it. Just saying. Heather, she put an SD card from her 80D into her 60 Mark II without formatting it and used it. And it still had some pictures on it.
I don't mean to laugh. I'm not laughing at you, Heather.
Yeah. We're just, I'm slightly tipsy. It's always a good idea to format the card in the camera you're using it for before using it. But speaking from experience, as somebody who has sometimes 5 different brands here and is running out the door and throwing SD cards in different cameras, it rarely causes a problem, but it can. Because each camera writes different folders on there and has slightly different formatting structure, and not enough that it automatically is going to blow up the camera, especially a Canon to a Canon. But it's just a good idea. You didn't cause any problems now. It's obviously seemed to work, I think. But in the future, you should always format a card before you use it in that camera.
Yeah, I kind of have a good analogy for this one. Just came up with it.
Oh, yeah, let me hear it.
Well, it's kind of like, Apple is now communicating really well among its devices, right? Mm-hmm. You've got iOS, you've got Mac OS X or OS, and there's times when there's some breakdown that occurs between your mobile device and your laptop, or your iPad and your laptop and that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, things seem to work pretty well, and they're getting better as time goes on. I think we'll find that if you're using you don't format your card and you move it from one Canon camera to another, it's probably going to be okay. I think the problem can really come up if you're going from one brand to, say from a Canon to a Sony. I know that I ran into this problem on a Southwest trip. I had an SD card in my Canon as a backup card, and I put it in a Hasselblad that Toby was testing, which I ultimately ended up buying later on. And I had to completely reformat that card. It just wasn't working. That to me is kind of like the days when you would install Windows on your Mac computer. I was of the mindset that I'm like, I don't want that crap on my Apple computer. So it's not going to be there, and I'm going to have to just kind of reformat the way that I do my workflow or whatever. So the analogy starts to break down, obviously. But anyway.
You lost me at Apple.
On that note, we are getting down to the end. We're saved done. My Luxardo cherry right here with the last sip.
For me?
No. I told you.
Even if I tell you have such pretty brown eyes.
I appreciate that very much, especially in this harsh white light.
It really did get so harsh. I'm sorry we're so blue. We're not sad.
Get yourself some Luxardo cherries. They are expensive, but they're really good.
Yeah.
You'll never eat a bright red, bad for you cherry again.
Folks, thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us for almost 2 hours.
Gosh.
Fred thanks you. Fred, the wannabe flounder. Steve and I thank you.
Yeah,
And
really
we will be back next week.
We will. Unfortunately, we're not going to be in the same room together.
Yeah.
We will be back with the show. I don't know. I kind of enjoyed having cocktails as we did this.
I know. We could do that again. Although it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon for me on a Wednesday. But hey, you know, that's my job.
It's 5 o'clock for me in East Tennessee. So
I'm going to write these cocktails off. I don't know how you do that, but I'm going to figure it out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us, as I said. And if you're watching this and you're not a Pen member, most of what we do is not drunken. This is like 1% of the content you get at the Photo Enthusiast Network, and you should consider joining, not only for the fantastic community of people that have been in the chat room and who are on the Facebook group and the message boards that will answer your questions and support you, but because seriously, where the F else do you get this kind of professional, but it's not swearing, I censor myself, this kind of professional photographers critiquing your photos and giving you feedback and advice? Honestly, write me. Tell me where else. Nowhere else for this price.
And I think we did a good job of holding this together. If we offended anybody out there, please don't hold that against us. Come back in the future. My deepest apologies for superfan number 99 over here, who can't seem to drink 2 gin and tonics with a little limoncello and not start cussing up a storm. But yeah, until next week, folks. Stay classy, San Diego.
Stay classy, San Diego. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Now for drunk